From the time we get up in the morning until the time we go to bed at night, our lives are lived by electrical means. Leading the electric revolution were the forefathers of the Oregon-Columbia chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association and the local union of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Much has changed in the last 100 years in the greater Portland-Vancouver metropolitan area. With the introduction of electricity in the late 19th century, life was revolutionized. There's a rich legacy in the partnership between NECA and IBEW Local 48. As we unfold the story of this uncommonly harmonious relationship, it's easy to see its impact, not only locally, but also nationally. The history of the electrical industry in the Pacific Northwest is as important as the history of the United States itself. For the last 100 years, it served as a reflection of the times and a glimpse of things to come. The promise of electricity. In 1910, electricity was all the rage. Merchants, consumers, and manufacturers demanded contractors wire their factories, homes, and buildings with electric lights. Business was good. Electricity was also being put to use in exciting new ways. The unveiling of the Hawthorne Bridge on December 19, 1910, was a landmark event. It was to be Portland's first electrically operated bridge and a nationally significant example of a vertical lift bridge. In 1911, a handful of Portland area contractors formed the NECA predecessor, the Oregon Association of Contractors and Dealers. 1912, and there was a call for more electricians. Streetcars with complicated wiring numbered 526, with 250,000 commuters. Less than 2 years after the Hawthorne Bridge, a second electrically operated bridge opened. The Steel Bridge was put into service in July of 1912. It was to be one of the first multimodal bridges in the world. Bridge City was taking shape. 1913 saw the formation and charter of IBEW Local 48. Members of Local 317 resolved their differences to create this charter. From 14 charter-signing members, Local 48's ranks swelled to 200. Dozens of electrical contractors, encouraged by Henry Sroof, superintendent of Nepage McKinney Company, executed agreements with Local 48. These included journeyman wage of 22 cents an hour, overtime of 33 cents an hour, helper's wage of $1 a day. The Roaring Twenties. The 1920s was a roller coaster of a decade for both electricians and common citizens alike. During the first year of the decade, things were hard for both electricians and contractors. Shipbuilding dried up and unemployment rose. In an effort to strengthen the workplace and the union, IBEW Local 48 and the NECA predecessor adopted the National No-Strike Agreement. Instead of costly strikes, labor and management agreed to submit disputes to the Council of Industrial Relations panel. It would go on to settle more than 8,000 disputes without a labor strike. October 1923, and IBEW Local 48 had just celebrated its 10th anniversary. Work ignited for the Association of Electrical Contractors and Local 48 electricians with the construction of high-rises, factories, and much, much more. 25,000 new homes were built, filling neighborhoods like Eastmoreland, Grant Park, and Concordia. New neighborhoods meant dozens of new schools, including Cleveland, Roosevelt, and Grant High Schools. In 1925 alone, electrical construction was needed in almost 4,000 new buildings. There was so much work coming in and only so many electricians to go around. The problem was remedied with the formation of an electrician apprentice school. On March 8, 1929, IBEW Local 48, along with Portland Public Schools, Oregon Building Congress, and the Oregon Association of Contractors, started an apprentice school, founded by labor and management. With the opening of the apprenticeship school, it seemed inconceivable that this boom would end anytime soon. But on October 28, 1929, it did exactly that. Wall Street crashed and the boom was over. The Great Depression. 1930, and the great wave of work that seemed like it would never end was over. The crash of Wall Street threw America into the Great Depression. It hit electrical contractors and Local 48 electricians particularly hard. There was, however, something big on the horizon. The Roosevelt administration announced, as part of its public works program, the construction of the Bonneville Dam. This project would create many jobs, generate cheap electricity, and contribute to the national security. Thousands of contractors and electricians would find work. Amidst the hardship of the Depression, another tragedy was unfolding at the Oregon State Capitol. On April 25, 1935, the Oregon Capitol building was destroyed by fire. The 89-year-old State House was a total loss. But when the call came to rebuild, hundreds of NECA IBEW Local 48 members answered. Although it was a tragedy, it provided sorely needed work for hundreds. In 1937, Congress created the Bonneville Power Administration to market electric power from the Bonneville Dam and to construct the facilities necessary to transmit that power. The BPA would go on to sell electricity in 8 western states. Roosevelt's Work Progress Administration added many sorely needed jobs during the Great Depression. But global events would soon conspire to keep Portland area contractors and electricians busy on a whole new level. World War II would soon be upon us, with one mandate for electricians and contractors alike: build more ships. Wartime shipbuilding. From 1940 to 1945, the 6 shipyards of the Portland area were working around the clock to build ships for the war effort. The 3 biggest and busiest shipyards were at Swan Island, St. John's, and Vancouver, built by Henry J. Kaiser. Portland shipyards employed 21,000 IBEW Local 48 electricians, and 1/3 of those employed were women and minorities. This sort of diversity was unheard of at the time. IBEW Local 48 electricians endured 60-hour work weeks alongside 100,000 welders and riggers. They wired and equipped for war 1,737 ships. Promotion at the time from trainee to apprentice increased journeyman pay from 95 cents to $1.20 an hour. May 19, 1943. After over 30 years of inconsistent affiliation, contractors led by R.C. Kennedy, S.I. Jagger, and W.R. Grassley fully formed the Oregon-Columbia chapter of NECA. NECA IBEW Local 48 negotiated contracts involving pay, benefits, education, and core values in a harmonious way. 1946 saw the end of the war and the closing of Portland shipyards. But as one door closed, many others opened. Forest products and the jobs they provided boomed. But the future was also calling. Howard Vollum and Jack Murdoch planted the seeds of Oregon's Silicon Forest when they founded a little company they named Tektronix. Portland's post-war boom. The 1950s saw a post-war boom in the Portland metropolitan area. And although there were many new projects on the way, it was also time to say goodbye to an old friend. From its humble beginnings in 1889, the Portland streetcar had become an important means of transportation for many Portlanders. Its ridership peaked during the Depression and World War II. The last owl run of the old Willamette Heights streetcar started on a cold Sunday morning in February of 1950. Electric trolleybuses succumbed to automobiles by 1958. 1954 saw the formation of the Harrison Health Trust. A 10 cents per hour contribution was negotiated for its formation.
I started my apprenticeship back in the first part of 1954 on the Dells Dam. My first recollection actually of the health and welfare is the fact that we had 2 members that was very pushy towards wanting to get health and welfare started in Local 48. One of them was Jimmy Steele. The other was a guy named Ed Bowler Sr. They agreed to not take a raise in pay. They agreed that they would put money out of the next contract and to go for the health and welfare.
Today, The Harrison Plan covers 5,000 families and 1,800 retirees. During the 50s, and especially during the years between 1955 and 59, NECA IBEW Local 48 enjoyed a building boom in Portland and outlying areas. Tektronix constructed its first building on a large campus in Beaverton. Portland International Airport was built. Construction began on tens of thousands of homes. The Dalles Dam, Morrison Bridge, Interstate 5, Interstate 84, and many commercial buildings were constructed during this period. During this decade, IBEW Local 48 saw its membership swell to 1,800. Benefits increased, and members chartered a federal credit union. Golden Jubilee. After almost 2 years of construction, Lloyd Center was open on August 1, 1960. It was the largest mall in the Pacific Northwest, and for a short time, the world. The project was completed by NECA IBEW Local 48's W.R. Grassley, Rose City Electric, and Frailer Electric. It was a massive undertaking and the largest construction project in the country at the time. 1960 was also the year that saw the completion of the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. At its opening, the 9,000-seat Coliseum was touted as the largest multi-purpose facility of its kind in the Pacific Northwest. A member of the Swan Island Shipyards, electrician Marie Gleason worked hard until she retired in 1962. Marie was to become the first woman in the nation, among 17,000 men, to gain full benefits under NECA IBEW's pension plan. 1963 saw NECA IBEW Local 48 assume the state's role in apprentice training. They launched the Metro Joint Apprenticeship Training Center.
We'd been trying to get the contractors to agree to have pay instructors. They started putting 2 cents an hour in for every hour worked in order to put that into the apprenticeship program, and that started building up to fund the school.
1968 was the year that saw the completion of the John Day Dam. Total budget was $448 million. Power flowed from the John Day Dam over a 120-mile-long, 500,000-volt, state-of-the-art transmission line to the Keeler substation serving Greater Portland. John Day's output was equivalent to 2 Bonneville dams. From natural forest to silicon forest. The 1970s saw the beginning of a shift from forest products to the silicon forest. From early 1970 to 71, the NECA IBEW Local 48 partnership created the Edison Pension Retirement Benefit Plan, paid for by employers. Retirees and their families would enjoy the same standard of living they had during their working years. Meanwhile, in Aloha, Intel commenced 2 years of construction on its Fab 4 computer chip factory. Thousands of NECA IBEW Local 48 contractors and electricians would benefit from Intel's 40 years of growth and $25 billion investment in Oregon. In 1977, the Metro Joint Apprenticeship Training Center had outgrown its Benson High School home.
One of the people that needs to deserve the credit for that is Buzzy Allison, because his shop was right up about 3 blocks up the street, and I think he used to do all the work in that Safeway store, and he seen it sitting there vacant, and he knew that we needed to have something better as far as, because Buzzy and I talked about the classroom and negotiations and apprenticeship committee meetings. We talked about how that needed to be improved in that, and so expanded and got the people out of Benson High School, put everybody in one school.
My grandfather instilled in myself a real value in people, and that if we take care of our employees and take care of each other in the industry and our employees will take care of us and the company. It doesn't matter where you came from or what you look like, whether you're male or female or different races or just different from what the industry started as. There's a place for you in this industry.
The Metro Apprenticeship Program had grown by 60% to over 300 attendees. The end of the 70s saw membership soar for NECA IBEW Local 48. NECA ended the decade with 55 contractor members, and IBEW Local 48 had 2,400 members. The wage for journeymen had increased to $17.25 an hour. Cooperation born in adversity. In January of 1980, the nation slipped into a recession. It lasted 6 months. The country spent the next year trying to recover, but by July 1981, the nation had slipped back into recession. This time, it would last 16 months. NECA and IBEW Local 48 knew they would need to form a partnership on a variety of points, and in 1983, that's exactly what they did. Perhaps the biggest job at the time was the modernization of the Crown Zellerbach Roaring 20 papermaking operation in Camas, Washington. IBEW Local 48 electricians completed the $425 million modernization on time at a labor-saving cost of $800,000. 1986 brought us Portland's iconic and indispensable transportation system, the MAX Light Rail. The electrical industry was growing in new and exciting ways. The adversity at the onset of the decade had made way for many technical advancements, cooperation, and prosperity. The dawn of the digital age. The seeds were sown in the 80s for the Silicon Forest, but the 90s saw those seeds grow into the digital age. It was also a time for NECA IBEW Local 48 to establish themselves as industry leaders on many fronts. In 1990, NECA IBEW Local 48 negotiated the first ever industry-wide drug-free workplace program, including both labor and management. From 1995 to 2000, technology firms from garage startups to Intel invested more than $10 billion in plant construction and expansion. NECA IBEW Local 48 contractors and electricians helped expand or construct facilities for many of the 1,800 high-technology firms that employ over 60,000 people. NECA contractors Christensen Electric, EC Company, and Oregon Electric Group each exceeded 500,000 man-hours of work, ranking them among the 30 largest electrical contractors nationally. In 1998, the new $6 million NECA IBEW Local 48 Electrical Training Center opened its doors near Portland International Airport. It was designed to meet the new millennium's demand for apprentices and journeymen with the competence and expertise to meet the technical challenges of the 21st century. And the 21st century was just around the corner. A decade of education, diversity, and technology. 2000 saw NECA IBEW Local 48 continue in their commitment to diversity. IBEW Local 48 elected Keith Edwards, the first African-American business manager of an IBEW local in the nation. 2001 saw the welcome return of an old friend. The electric streetcar made its return to the streets of downtown Portland with its inaugural run on July 20th. By 2007, NECA members Maranatha Electric, Oregon Iron Works, and United Streetcar would be manufacturing streetcars in Portland for Portland. In 2008, NECA IBEW Local 48 members committed to green building. This included the practice of net zero construction that provides energy to occupants by energy-saving designs. These practices were not only environmentally friendly, they also came at just the right time. Another recession was right around the corner. In 2009, the Great Recession hit Oregon hard. Unemployment for the state peaked at 11.6%. Recovery was slow throughout the state, with one exception: Intel Corporation. NECA contractors and 2,000 IBEW Local 48 electricians helped construct Intel's newest fabrication facility at the Ronler Acres campus in Hillsboro. Completion in 2013 continued 40 years of Intel investment in Oregon, totaling $25 billion. Keeping its promise of wiring a green tomorrow, In 2010, NECA member Hughes Electrical installed the first public quick charge station for electric vehicles. It was the first such station in North America. In 2012, the skilled workforce of Kelso Longview Local 970 merged with IBEW Local 48. Since 1921, Local 970 provided the workforce that maintained, supported, and upgraded the region's Columbia River ports, paper mills, and sawmills. NECA IBEW Local 48 today. Through its innovative progressive market program of 1986, NECA IBEW Local 48 contractors have been awarded a staggering 18,216 projects to date. And that number is sure to increase in the future. These are valuable projects to the 4,500 members of IBEW Local 48 and represent over 15 million hours of work. The value to the 150 NECA contractors exceeds $1.6 billion. NECA IBEW Local 48 has shown its commitment to diversity and has been an industry leader from its inception, always pioneering and pushing the limits of technology. NECA IBEW Local 48 are looking forward to another 100 years of serving the Portland-Vancouver metropolitan area.